Okay, welcome everybody. I am here with Miss Diana Cale Kennedy and Mr. River Plum, and I'm so excited to share with you that they have an upcoming workshop beginning very soon about astrology and human design. So, Studio Nia Santa Fe is so excited, and I'm personally so excited to introduce them to you if you haven't already met them, and just share their brilliance with you. It's my belief that really everybody needs to meet these two people. They have changed my life, how I think about my life, how I navigate through my life. And they're both, this is my personal astrologer, and I'm going to call River, and I'm going to call Diana not only my personal business coach, my personal human design coach, but also my therapist. And during the pandemic, my therapist actually stopped doing personal sessions, and I thought, you know what? I've got Diana. And
Mm.
so, and then I also have River, who between these two, we video chat, we talk about life, we share our passions together. We're all into Nia, and they continually are giving me, well, did you know, since you said this, did you know that this is what's happening with your Saturn and your Jupiter right now? Or, that's what River will say, and he'll draw up my chart and say, did you understand that the reason you're feeling this way is that, he's justifying my life experience with the stars and the astrology and mythology. And then Diana will say, well, of course you're designed this way, Kelly. Now understand that you're designed for XYZ. And sometimes when I get kind of in a muddle around things, I'll call one of them up, and they'll just freely just give me this really helpful information. And so I've been playing with these two for many years with Diana. She's been the Studio Nia Santa Fe business coach for at least 10 years, right, Diana?
Yep, that's right.
And then I've just loved getting to know River. He's come and stayed at my house, taught my classes, is a good friend, and is recently my astrologer when I asked him, could you do my chart? And then he did my chart, and we had an hour and a half reading, and I was so blown away that I actually gifted my mother, Debbie Rosas, my studio manager, and Diana a session with River. And I said, you have to do this session with River. And then Diana and River in that session, you can tell me how it was, but they started to collaborate and say, I think that my language is different than yours, but we're having the same conversation, and we're helping each other understand ourselves and others with different languages. But I think you really resonated with how each other was speaking to the self, right? And authenticity, and to thine own self be true, and helping individuals really coming back to self. And so they created this workshop called To Thine Own Self Be True. And I've been pulling in River with astrology and pulling in Diana for so long. And I'm just so thrilled to have them here to share their genius and their brilliance. So let's hear from them. First of all, what brought about this collaboration?
Mhm.
Well, first off, Kelly's been the catalyst in Studio Nia Santa Fe. When I came down there in 2019 to stay at Kelly's house and teach her classes, I was given a reading by Diana Cale Kennedy in Human Design. And that was our first real connection around our languages. Astrology and human design really are languages of symbols. And even though we spoke different languages, our philosophies really lined up. We believe in authenticity. We believe in using these tools for self-development, not fatalistic fortune telling, but to really grow into our unique sense of self. And I think that resonance of similar philosophy really helped solidify the yes to do this with her and to do it through Studio Nea Santa Fe.
Well, how could I not want to collaborate with River? Look at that shining face. As we all say, River is like a river of light. And so when we had the human design session, it was clear to me that River had a background understanding in astrology, and our astrology is part of the synthesis of human design. I would hear myself say, I'm not an astrologer. That's not my expertise. I come from a different place with human design. I come from a leadership perspective. And so I've been looking for someone who who looks at astrology from that place of practicality, and how does astrology, understanding the language of the field that we're swimming in, this energetic field, how do we take that language and have it be absolutely transformative, practical, accessible, and useful in people's everyday lives in terms of understanding, knowing that we are totally unique. We're unique, our lives are unique, and our decisions, the decisions we have to make every day, have to come from that unique place. How do we empower people to live from that uniqueness? Mm-hmm. And so when Kelly gifted me a session with River more recently, it was clear to me, clear to both of us, we are committed to having given people language and tools to live and be true to ourselves. So
Beautiful. I love the language that we're speaking, which is about self-mastery, right? Self-knowledge, having a learning mindset, but also following our passion, being authentic, right? And in Nia, of course, we're all about following our passion and really following the sensation of meaning. Instead of making choices from here, we're making choices more from the gut and the heart, and teaching people how to follow the sensation of meaning so that we're really on a direct course for our lives. And so River and Diana, I'm curious to hear about. River, maybe you can start. How did you fall in love with astrology so much that you knew it was part of that path, that you'd become a teacher and a professional in astrology?
Oh, great question. My grandmother's an astrologer, so I grew up around the language, and she really specialized in compatibility, or a practice called synastry. So looking at two charts together and seeing how people relate. And it wasn't until after I discovered Nia that I returned back to astrology. I've always had a love of mythology and symbolism, the philosophy of the hero's journey, and really the natal chart is that journey. It's the journey, it's the seed that holds the potential of that moment in time. I think what really motivates and inspires me about astrology is its basic premise is that we live in an embodied, intelligent universe, that nothing is chaotic. There is divine order all around us. And as this flow of time, each birth chart is a snapshot of the quality of the moment we are born. Therefore, our lives are part of this meaningful expansion of the universe. So to me, astrology has given me the tools to understand who I truly am outside of the conditioning of society. Astrology has shown me my blind spots. It's shown me the roadblocks that I have faced. So looking back when I was younger, I can now see it with greater clarity, meaning, and purpose. I had to experience those things in order to live out and embody that archetypal lesson. So for me, astrology has given me tools for self-development, self-understanding, and most importantly, self-healing. Truly, the chart has shown me that nothing is random and that our lives are meaningful. And I want to share that with everybody. I want to share it. Astrology can be a very complex language, and it doesn't have to be. It's thousands of years old, and yet it can be practical and accessible for the modern human. And I love that about it.
I want to show you the tears in my eyes right now when you said, and I want to share that. I'm literally crying. Um, there's a way, River, that in your sessions with me, I hear you speak to me personally, but then you also speak about the mythology. You bring up, the mythology, the history, the characters, the archetypes that then I can relate to make it personal. And you are such a teacher. You teach me, I don't know these archetypes, and I go, oh, now I can relate to it, since you have this way of layering understanding and really teaching it so beautifully.
Thank you.
Diana, what about you?
So I never saw or thought about myself teaching something like astrology or human design. And I will say that I did grow up. I did not a TED talk, but something like a TED talk, where I was speaking to my parents and how the parenting model that they brought me up inside of. And they brought me up to honor self-navigation. And how they did that, they would say to me, darling, follow your spark of aliveness, wherever it leads. What puts a fire in your belly and a sparkle in your eye, they would say. And so when they would kind of coach me or guide me, they would say things like, darling, your spark's a wee bit low. Are you sure you want to be hanging out with that boy, Johnny, kind of thing? Darling, your spark's a wee bit low. Are you sure? And so on. And what they were doing was, instead of giving me advice, they were having me come in to stop, to pay attention to my energy, my spark of aliveness, and to learn how to have that guide me. And I lived my life. How I would speak about it was mostly just doing what I love. I didn't really know any different until in adulthood and coaching and consulting, leadership. I realized that not everybody grew up that way and didn't have this place to tether in the face of constant pressure from societal norms, even family norms, business norms, to be somebody that we're not, to kind of contort ourselves and our body into these boxes, to fit in, to feel valuable, to be seen. And through following that kind of spark of aliveness, it led me to investigating growth and development programs since I was 13. And I have engaged in many, many, many different transformational programs. And when human design came to me 13 years ago, it was a gift. Somebody gifted me, like you gifted me, Cale, with River. And I had this session and I thought, okay, here's another kind of typing session, and, it might be useful. And then all of a sudden, as I looked at my blueprint, which is a human design blueprint is very similar to an astrological blueprint, different form, I realized, I just took a big, deep breath. And I realized that what the person was saying was everything I already knew to be true about me. And even though I grew up the way I did, I still didn't always trust it. And so human design has brought me a language, and most importantly, somatic embodied practice for everyday living, how to make good decisions for myself, that has been mind-blowingly simple, not always easy, because I do find it takes courage to keep trusting and moving through life from that place that we know is real and true for us. And so I just continued to investigate and pull on threads until I realized that who I get to be in life in the face of all kinds of chaos and uncertainty, like the last few years, I have a place to rest and to find certainty from the inside out. And human design, more than most things I've investigated, has given me that very powerfully, very practically. and very accessible. Yeah, so here I am, and I've never marketed human design. I guess this is some kind of marketing. It has been a demand. People have found me, and I feel like it's an idea whose time has come, even like astrology. I feel like now people are really experiencing, we have got to be able to tether ourselves inside so we can navigate through any kind of chaos that shows up around us. So here we are.
Mm. I love how you talk about the spark, and that I feel, Diana, that that's what you do in human design, which is reminding me of possibility, of the spark within me that is really me. And so, like you said, human design gave me something that I already knew when I when you began to study it, you felt like, oh my gosh, this is something that I know about myself already. And so when you coach me, I feel like I know that that's a possibility. I know that about myself, but you'll say something to me that is, well, did you know that you had this option? Due to your human design being like this, you actually have this option. You could just do this yourself. You could do XYZ. And then, but it comes from not a friend just saying, well, did you ever think about this? It comes from you understanding my design so fully. It's like I'm talking to myself from my higher self.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so powerful. So yeah, it's incredible work. And I know that I would not be who I am today without your work with me. How can these two, lenses, perspective, viewpoints, bodies of work, how can they blend together?
I love the word lens. Really, we are looking at our bodies and lives through different lenses, through these different symbol systems. And really, it's about living life to the fullest, right? The natal chart has that promise, and it can show us where we might sour and not live out more fully that expression. And human design does the same thing of showing us when we're not acting in alignment with ourself. I believe Joseph Campbell called that follow your bliss, right? So inherent within these systems is following our own unique blueprint to living a full and meaningful life. And so it allows, astrology gives us one language, one lens to look at. It shows archetypal ranges of multidimensional expression. So a planet, a sign, a house can manifest physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and it can operate in the mundane world and also in the somatic. And I think that's really the gift of human design, is bringing in the somatic component more fully. So I'd love to hear Diana talk about that.
Great. So these are Nia, our Nia friends will recognize these little items. And so one of the ways why I'm thrilled to have found River and how his relationship with astrology, he helps me, he teaches me truly this powerful language of the field, how the planets are moving. And in this workshop that's coming up, the fundamentals, River's going to be really focusing in on the sun, the moon, the ascendant in each participant's chart. And so he brings a language to this field, and the way he expresses it feels, it's so right on, like an arrow to its target. And so how that helps me as somebody teaching human design is the human design, you could call it the birth blueprint, is totally impacted by the astrological birth, the natal chart. And so the language that River brings has us then be able to see, if we go within, how what human design says is the planetary movement and positioning at our birth and beyond is interacting with our genetics. So if we imagine that we have human design, well, this is genetics, 64 genetic codons, And what we will get to see in human design is how the planets and what River is saying is interacting with our genetic patterning, and how we have each have genetic patterns that are totally unique. There is no other human being on the planet that has the same patterns. And we have opportunities where we are not fixed in our genetic patterns, and genes can turn on and off. And so, like in epigenetics, we get to explore how the continual and continuous movement of the planets, the transits, River would call them, actually is turning on other genes and turning off, so that we get access to this relational wisdom, this environmental wisdom. And so what I'm bringing is really taking what River is giving us and relating it to the genetic patterns and showing that, so that we already have a context for what we're looking at genetically. And so it instantly, the genetic human design language and patterning makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I can have it make sense without being an astrologer, the difference with having River and the mastery of the astrological language, bringing that and shining it onto the human design work, has people, in my experience, say, oh my God, how come I didn't get that before? So for me, it is the both and of our two different systems and languages and passion for both that creates this quantum dynamic that is unique and powerful. So.
And I think what makes our collaboration so unique is giving people the tools to begin to access this material and utilize it in their lives immediately. So many times astrology or human design is overcomplicated. And so by bringing these two languages together, we can begin to give accessible tools to begin to upgrade our lived experience immediately after the first session.
Mm-hmm.
And this will be 9-week sessions. We're going to meet weekly for 2 hours on Sundays for 9 weeks to go deep into this language, looking at the philosophy of how do we use this, looking from my perspective, the sun, which is our identity. It's our purpose in this lifetime. Our moon, which is how we feed and nourish our bodies, our minds, our spirits. And the ascendant, the sign that was rising at the time of our birth, which is the path. It is the Dharma. It is the way. And each of these three archetypes can be lived consciously or very productively, or they can also be lived in a more problematic way. So we can see roadblocks. We can see where we might be falling short of living into these archetypes, this hero and heroine's journey, as we would say. And then Diana bringing in the human design piece. What will you be teaching us, Diana?
Yeah, so we'll be looking at human design has what they call energy types, only 4 energy types, kind of like blood types, but they're biogenetic patterning types. And so we'll be looking at what difference, what shift in perspective happens immediately when we understand what our aura type is and how it's designed to function, how it's already being productive in our lives, and then the somatic practice or practices that allow us to sense that energetic type that we already are immediately, to sense it and to bring it, to have it shift things in our life. We're going to look at, what are the challenges we're facing? So everybody's going to have an opportunity at the beginning of the program to really identify what are the challenges that we're facing and where would we like to create practical shifts from week to week. And so then we're going to bring in type, just like we're going to connect sun, moon, and the ascendant to your type and understanding that, to create shifts week by week. And then we're going to be looking at what does tether us to ourselves. What does keep us centered? I don't know if you've ever had people say to you, well, just be yourself. For goodness sake, that's how they say it in Scotland. For God's sake, just be yourself, as if that's easy to do. Yeah. And so we're going to be looking at what is it that will have everybody be able to tether to what we call the inner authority, while being pressurized by the outside world, such that we can trust our outer authority.
Wow.
An outer authority, if we look at Kelly, for example, I trust Kelly completely as an outer authority for me to learn from in NIA, as a NIA trainer, for example. And so we all have a unique inner authority, a unique outer authority, and staying tethered to the inner authority is the path. And so we'll be working with those two things.
Well, I feel like we already just tuned into the channel WIFM. What's in it for me? Why do I want to do this workshop, right? So, but is there anything else about what's in it for these participants that you want to share before we close and give the details?
Yeah, I think what's so exciting about this event, this collaboration, is you're getting two of us, which is great. You're getting two people who are dedicated to their practices and dedicated to self-mastery. We have a Facebook group for our community, our container, where we'll be seeding questions. We'll have guided meditations. We'll have worksheets throughout the week to really begin to embody the material. I offer free dance classes that are based on the lunar cycle. So you'll have access to that along with NIA 5 Stages workshops that again are designed with the archetypes of the zodiac in mind and using our practice, our NIA language, in order to further understand astrology and human design.
My mind's blown. They get all of that?
Yes.
I didn't know all of that yet. That's amazing. What about you, Diana?
I would just say practical transformation. And so when River and I were asking each other the question, how will we know that we've been successful and that we will be fully satisfied? And we both agreed that when we have participants identify what's relevant and valuable in your life, and that by the 9th week, that you have been able to say, dear God, those have all shifted, those have all transformed, and with relative ease and grace. That's, I feel, is what matters to us for you.
It's very super powerful. I just want to tell everybody out there that's listening, whoever you are, I have been working on pulling these two in to the studio for so long that this is not to be missed. I mean, this is years in the making. And actually, 2022 is it's going to be a whole year-long curriculum with River and Diana that we're dedicating ourselves to their brilliance, the way they bring somatic education, the way they bring their own genius via also being NIA people, being somatic people. It's really not to be missed. And this first 9-week course is really the essentials, they're calling it, right? And then from there through 2022, we'll have different curriculum that they're creating for us to really even dive deeper. But you need these fundamentals, I think. Although the other courses you can come in if you don't have the essentials, but this deep dive in is the place to kind of get your feet wet and know how much you love it. Not to see if you love it, to know how much you love it. I know you will. Give us the details. How can they sign up? What's the cost? What about recordings if they can't come live?
Perfect. Yes. So we start February 13th. It's a Sunday at 2 p.m. Mountain Time, 3 p.m. Central. I'm in Kansas. And it's $333 for the 9 weeks, including all of the other guided recording meditations and also opportunities to move with us as well. You can find out more information. We'll leave the link in the comments below, but on the Studio Nia Santa Fe website, you can register and sign up. Anything I missed, Diana?
Let's see. No, I think that's it. Recordings will be available, and Studio Nia, I think that's it.
Yeah.
And the recordings are available through the entire course, through the 9 weeks. So if you can't do the recording within a week, it's not like we're going to only give you 7 days. We're actually going to give you 9 weeks and another week afterwards, so you can catch up if you missed the ninth one, that they'll be available. You can take notes, you can go back to what you haven't understood and watch it again. So that's all available for you. So practical transformation occurs.
And what a deal. You're ultimately getting 9 readings with us, right? Nine
Right.
readings, 9 consultations with an astrologer and a human design expert to really look at your chart and to live it and to embody it. So I'm so excited to be offering this with Diana and through Studio Nia Santa Fe with our dear friend Kelly Ray.
Yeah, me too. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you so much for pulling us together, being the catalyst, and not just inviting us, but really being a demand for us to play together.
I'm a demand for you too. And I hope everybody out there is a demand too. I mean, just I hope you trust me. I've really been working with these individuals for a long time and so many ahas. Like literally half of this interview, I've had tears in my eyes just from the love and the appreciation I have for these two and what they bring. So I hope you can join us. StudioNiaSantaFe.com. The workshop is called To Thine Own Self Be True. Practical transformation is afoot. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Hope to see you there.